I don't know. I felt like doing one more video before I went to bed because I mean apparently you guys like this new indicator, so I wanted to before I go on vacation. I'm not doing a video for a while. Just one last little video on how to set it up essentially. So first thing you want to do is find this L edge volume painted bar. Just type it in. It should all of this stuff should pull up. Add that in there. This is just basically going to give you this trend line, which is just the the painted bars. And the reason you like those is because they're going to give you an indication of softness or strength in the market. A lot of people like to use like RSI and things. I like as many indicators as possible that are volume based. I like strictly. I don't like moving averages that much. I don't even really like VWAP because I mean, where's the edge in something that 99% of traders are using is VWAP, and I don't really see there being much edge to using that. So I don't even use VWAP. I know a lot of people do, but I think it catches you in a lot of traps, to be honest. So I don't use I use anchored VWAP a lot. Now the reason I use anchored VWAP, which is this little guy, it's free on TradingView. You can find it. Where the free is it? There it is. It's anchored VWAP. I like anchored VWAP a lot, but I'm not going to go over that too much here. But that's about the only VWAP I like. So I like these painted bars because it's going to give you. You can color code them based on volume. So like right now we're looking at Bitcoin. It's I tried to break down through these weekly levels, which are these yellow lines, and it tried to break down on low volume, and you can kind of see that here, and then now it's trying to break up, but right now it's still low volume, and you can see that here. So I like everything volume based. Truthfully, I wish I could just trade without even looking at the price. If I could just trade just using volume indicators. So just know that about me. I'm all about support resistance only. I don't care about trend lines. I don't care about channels. All I care about is levels and volume. And so, and all I care about is the interaction. That's the key. The key here for me that I've learned is the interaction of buyers and sellers at price levels. And this is all we care about here. Now, price levels, there's major supports, there's minor supports. I would say something like, okay, so you got like a monthly close is a major support or resistance. Weekly is going to be less important, but more important than a daily. So it's going to be greater than a daily level. And then, like daily is going to be a bigger level than like a 4 hour, and so on and so forth. And so all I care about is the interaction of buyers and sellers at these price levels. And so what I'm watching here, just looking at Bitcoin as it's trying to break down back through these levels, interacted here at these weekly levels here, tried to break out. There wasn't enough volume. They established a point of control right here underneath. And a lot of times you see that where if you're using volume profile, where they establish the point of control a lot of times is right underneath a breakout area. And that's a very good sign in most cases for a breakout, especially intraday. Doesn't mean it's going to continue into the next day, but it's going to give you a nice level to work from going into the next day. And so now what we want to see, so we've got the point of control, which was the most volume traded for that day. That's the price most volume traded, 37.6. So we can see that over here, 37.6 was the most volume for yesterday, right underneath these weekly levels. And then this box, if you watched my last video, this box here, this orange box, is yesterday's range. Okay, so here's yesterday's high and a bunch of weekly levels. So they set up this point of control right underneath there. And so they tried to break it out early in the day. So here's the day's trading. They tried to break it out early on some pretty decent volume. They couldn't quite get it. It comes back down into this point of control. It gets all, look at all the volume. It's kind of dwindled down. It's gray. It's trending down. It's getting all, confused. And it's just trying to find equilibrium here. And then they try to break it out again. And this time they finally do. But it was on lower volume. So see how the volume a lot of times you see these divergences, right? Like people are always talking about RSI divergence, MACD, CCI, freaking Williams percentage R, all this stuff. You always see these divergences, but the most important one is these volume divergences. So you have this right here. We had a divergence. So they tried to break it out. This was a lower volume mainly because Elon Musk and Michael Saylor started tweeting here, but at least they got it through the levels. You can see that's where the battle was happening. So now we got this point of interest here, really, in this little section here where it gets kind of caught up in the mud. They try to bring it back down through the level again, tested once. They tried to burn, but see how the volume was lower, starting a new day, low volume, and they sold it back off again, right into that level again. Here's yesterday's point of control. So they're trying to break it. They tried to break it back down, but the volume was just too low to get it back through that level. So you see why we only want to use price levels, horizontal levels. We don't care about diagonal trend lines. At least I don't. I don't want to look at those. So all I'm looking at is the interaction here. And so, okay, so that's how I use these. I like to use these as softness and strength. So right now I would not be a buyer here, technically, because there's just no volume here. I can see this either trading sideways or it can start failing again. So we don't really know what's going to happen here. This could just be just a short blip. But it did spike pretty high. 37.6 to 38.4 was a nice move for 30 minutes. Anyway, so we don't care about that, at least for 30 minutes, unless you're trading in short time frames. Then add the smooth Heikin-Ashi candles. It's just basically like a moving average, but it's just smoothing out the candlesticks. Based on a 10 period, you can use whatever you want, but it's just going to basically be, I said I don't like moving averages, but this is about the only moving average I'm going to use because it's a nice trend indicator. You can see how it stays red for a while. If it gets choppy, how it stayed blue for quite a while. So it's going to give you a nice indication of the trend. That's all I care about. I just want to know what the trend is looking like. And then we had the volume profile. So you had the volume painted bars, your Heikin-Ashi trend, your volume profile. If you guys have TradingView Pro, you guys can add this many things in here. But session volume, add that on there. And what that's going to look like is how I have it set up is I always have this extend point of control right. That way, whenever you're using your point of control, what you'll see a lot of times, and I said this in the last video, what you see a lot of times is that these point of controls will get revisited a lot of times. So if you extend them right, then you'll see the point of controls that haven't been tested yet. So like for example, 2 days ago, the point of control from really the second test of 30,000, which only hit 31,000. See that point of control hasn't been touched yet? And see how it tried to come back today and touch yesterday's point of control. It didn't quite make it yet. We don't know if it's going to, but it hasn't quite made it back down to test it and actually touch it yet. But we'll see. But that's why I like to use volume profiles for the session so that I can get that point of control. I can see which ones haven't been touched yet. We have one way up here at 57,000 that hasn't been touched. I think it's like right around in here. You see there's tons of resistance up there. And one thing I like to do is I'm going to erase these drawings, just something that you might think about. I'll show you how to add in these boxes, but now you can start going in and adding in the horizontal levels going back as far back as you want to really. But what I'll do is I'll come in here, these yellow boxes are weekly levels, and I'll add in a line just showing me where the weekly levels are. And then my white lines are going to be my monthly levels. And I'm not going to do this for every daily level because I'm just going to trade intraday. I can see the most recent levels. I'm not going to, you can already see it gets pretty cluttered here, but that's how I know that this is going to be a point of interest, mainly because there's a VWAP, anchored VWAP that I use here off the low from the crash. And so that's going to give you a nice level to trade off of too, especially knowing that if you're above this anchored VWAP, you've got this support sitting here at 36.9. So right now, I mean, obviously we're bullish technically just because of that, because that's the anchored VWAP from the low, from the crash, the big crash. Okay, so by adding those horizontal levels, so now I got yellow levels going all the way up and white levels. I know which levels are big. These are weeklies. This is going to be a monthly, and I could go so far as to even label them too if I wanted to. Like if I was really detailed, some of you might be like this, be like, okay, this was like April, week of April 4th through 11th close or something like that. Then you can see it, but I don't care that much. I just want to know that it's a weekly level, whether it's a close, a high, a low, or an open. So that's all I really want to know. But you can see here where this is starting to act like a little bit of a resistance here as it's trying to break back through these weekly levels. Okay, so and then this MTF OCR, which is going to be this one, my pro indicators. Add 3 of those on there real quick if you can, and then change one to daily. And you can change these colors and whatever you want, however you want. I like my daily colors to be orange, my weeklies to be yellow, and my monthlies to be white, but you can do yours however you want. But this one, weekly, and then monthly. And you can have the 61% extension automatically added on there. I don't use fib levels, again, because fib levels again, and pivot levels, what I've learned is just derivatives of the open, high, lows, and closes. So why not just use the open, high, lows, and closes anyways? And so that's what I've just been doing there as far as that goes. And then so now we're watching it. Now we're seeing a natural formation and the structure of the market to where we can find the optimal plays and track the market. So right now, if we set this all up, let's just go to like an hourly here. We set this all up. It looks kind of muddied here with all these levels in here, but now we're seeing on an hourly basis, we're seeing pretty low volume here. I mean, relative to yesterday, we're seeing pretty low volume. And we could even come in here. I like this right here, this DTR versus ATR. I like adding that in there every once in a while just to, because what it'll do is it'll tell you the relative volume of the day, where it's at right now. It's only 19% because it's pretty early. But that gives you a nice idea. Then you got your ranges too. So your daily trading range, your current one. So right now we're trading 21.93, but your average trading range is going to be 50.80. So we can expect a lot more range here if it starts to get moving here. But now we're on an hourly, and we're seeing the hourly trend into today. So we got yesterday. This is yesterday's price action inside of the previous day's range. And right now we're trading inside of the weekly range from last week. So we got 2 days that have printed so far inside of last week's range. And then we've got 2 weeks range ago. And you can see all of last week pretty much traded underneath the previous week's range. And then it's pretty much all been under, see this white here? This is last month's range. So we're in May, so we're printing a current month range and opens and closes and all this stuff. But then we have last month's too that we're trying to consider in this context. So are we going to be able to make it back up to last month's range? And so I have this level highlighted because that's the low of last month. That'll be definitely be a level to watch. And we've got this level here, which was the close and then the open of this week. So that'll be another huge level. And so now you're looking, now you have natural levels built in here. So now we're looking at this little trend here, and on hourly, compared to a 15-minute, on a 15-minute it doesn't look so hot. On a 30-minute doesn't look so hot. On an hourly, I'm looking at this going, okay, this is a pretty low volume sell into this level here, and we've got our trend here. So the trend is kind of weakening here, as you can see these boxes getting smaller. So that's a good indication that there's softness coming. We don't know which way it's going to resolve itself, but there's softness coming into these levels. And so we can see where they tried to puncture it through, and you can see where it got gray here. So I like to set this up to where the volume profile for the session, the down volume is gray, and then the up volume some sort of green, and then your value area, which is 70% of the volume for the day, is bright green, bright red. That way you can just look at the profile and see where the excess lows and excess highs are. Excess low, excess high is going to be anything above these levels. You can even go so far as to, these are going to be support resistance as well. You can see where they set that excess right at that weekly level, so that's going to be a support. And then you got another resistance right there. And you can even color code these something different, you know, like something like this or something. Maybe use this. But the idea is there, that's going to be a resistance as well, this 39. Because traders are looking at this volume here, this 70% traded here. And so that's what we're looking at right now. There's nothing. I mean, you could venture a dip buy here if you're really bullish, but you know, until you got like a nice green bar and it wasn't gray, it was a nice bright green or something, at least with this system, I'd want to see some volume behind it, because you got multiple levels to contend with here. You got this 39 and you've got the 40, which really smacked it down. So that's going to be a big level, and ideally we want to see enough volume to push this up over this 42 level if you are a bull. But we got a lot of resistance to get back up here. And then what I like about this setup is you start seeing these natural gaps. Everybody likes to trade a gap. Like, you got your opening gap. Does the gap hold? Are we going to fill the gap? Well, that happens inside of these levels as well. So like if you're mapping out all the open highs, lows, and closes for, you know, going back as far as you can, you're going to start seeing these natural levels form. Now, I'm not going to say that this is going to hit 49.8, and does it just rip right to 57.3? And you know, how fast does it happen? But you can definitely see right here, there's no resistance here. So path, you're always wanting to trade the path of least resistance. So that's the key with this. And the path of least resistance, if they can bust it through on high volume here at 49.6, the path of least resistance is 57,000. And that's where that point of control is. That's just kind of like a hanging chad here. You can see it. That point of control, this purple line on the 4 hour, has not been touched yet. Neither has this one here. So you got, that's right where that breakout level is, right where that breakout we saw on the 1 hour. 49 or 50 here. So let's go to the 4 hour. We're looking at it now. So now we've got this point of control. We can just mark it here. Go back to the hour. Now we've got another level that has to be tested here, and then we've got this level here as well. That's right underneath that big white line. There is the last month's close. Last month's close was right there, 57. Just crazy to think about. But that's going to be a massive level here. Just looking at everything that's set up here. But this is going to be a nice little play. If they can get it back over this 49 or 50, there's going to be a nice little squeeze or a nice little panic FOMO buy. I would think buying it up in here. You can also see another level I forgot to mark here. And so if you forget a level, then you might be setting yourself up for failure here. Look at all these levels I forgot. I mean, I haven't seen us attempt to even get up to these levels yet, so I didn't mark these off yet. But now we're seeing that gap disappear now with all these levels. So marking the lows of these weeklies. We got a close here. We got a weekly high. Okay. Sorry you guys had to watch me do that, but I don't want to lead you astray here telling you there's going to be a ripper coming if there's really not. So, okay, so where are we at here? So what was I saying? I was saying that there could be potentially a ripper through this 50. Now I'm not so sure. Now you're seeing more resistances showing up in that gap. But it is getting a little looser here, so there's going to be a little bit more interest in buying at that point, I would say. And then now you're seeing all-time high as well. So this is how far we are from all-time high. Got a lot of work to do, but if you ever see this print, you're probably going to see it probably go right to 100,000, I would imagine, at this point, after it survived that huge liquidation. So hopefully this helps you with the setup. On the bottom here, I've got the intrabar volume profile. So intrabar. Oh wow, what's this balance? I've never seen this one, but this is what I use: the volume profile, intrabar volume. And I come in here, and that's not what I do. I come in here, open that up, and then change these to buying volume line, buying volume line. I use it sort of like an RSI, I guess you would say, where you're looking for oversold, overbought, oversold conditions, but you're using volume instead of just previous periods of price action. And so now we're looking at a situation here where it's indecisive. See where the lines are just like interconnected. And you see where the breakouts happen. What happens is this cross happens. Okay, so we got low volume, and then the bulls take over. And so then you see the weakness happen, and then the sellers come out. You watch it for a while, you start to get a feel for how price is going to react based on the volume. And then the standard deviation I really like too, because it's going to give you a volume, a bar, a column based on a standard deviation. So that's what I really like about that. I need to investigate those other volume profile intrabars. I don't think I've ever seen these. So we'll check those out. We'll mess around with those. We got intrabar volume there. I'll look at that one. So I'll look at all of those and see how they are. But for now, that's what I've been using. And you're basically just looking, again, for the interaction of buyers and sellers at price levels to give yourself a low-risk entry. Low risk meaning if you wanted to go long here on a 15-minute time frame, then your stops would just be right here. And if you got stopped out, then obviously you know it's going to drop a lot further. The path of least resistance is down right now, in my opinion. But if you wanted to get short, then you know that your stop is right here. And so you can just basically sit there and know that you're wrong if price goes above these levels here. All right, so let's get rid of that. Anyways, hopefully that helps you out too. We'll see you guys in like a week.